Morgan stepped off the transport shuttle and took her first breath of recycled station air. Harmony Prime smelled like nothing. Not like home. Not like the Nebraska farm where wind carried the scent of wheat and rain and honest dirt. Here everything was clean and filtered and empty. She adjusted the strap of her bag and walked toward the academy entrance. Other students moved around her in groups, talking in languages her translator chip turned into flat English. None of them looked at her. That was fine. Preferred it that way. The Galactic Unity Academy rose before her like a crown of glass and metal. It housed students from 12 different species, all learning to work together for the future of the Galactic Council. Earth had only earned the right to send students 3 years ago, after humans proved themselves during the border conflicts. Was one of only 3 humans attending this year. A tall figure in a gray uniform met her at the registration desk. The alien had 4 arms and skin like polished stone. His name tag read Administrator. Human, he said, scanning her documents. Morgan, Earth, North American region. Yes, sir, said. Looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were solid black and impossible to read. You are smaller than expected. Human females are usually larger. Said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was often the best answer. Handed her a room key and a data pad with her schedule. You will share quarters with a student. Her name is Lyra. Do not cause problems. Nodded and followed the directions on her data pad. The corridors of the academy were wide and bright, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. She passed a group of massive students with thick scales and heavy tails. They stopped talking when they saw her. Look, one of them said loudly. The others laughed, kept walking. She had heard the term before. To most galactic species, Earth was a nightmare world of crushing gravity, extreme weather, deadly predators, and toxic plants. Humans were survivors of an impossible place, and that made other species uncomfortable. Her room was on the 3rd level of the residential wing. Pressed her key to the door panel and stepped inside. The space was simple but comfortable. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage units. One side was already decorated with pale blue fabrics and delicate crystals. A voice came from behind her. You must be the human. Turned. Lyra stood in the doorway of the small bathroom. She was tall and thin, with skin the color of winter sky and hair like silver threads. Her eyes were large and violet, and they studied with obvious uncertainty. I am, she said. Nice to meet you. Lyra nodded slowly. I am Lyra of the. I have never shared space with her before. I do not bite, said. Lyra did not smile. I have read about your world, the storms, the predators, the diseases. I do not understand how anything survives there. Set her bag on the empty bed. We manage. The first week passed quietly. Attended her classes, took careful notes, and spoke only when spoken to. She learned that the academy had a strict social order. The sat at the top. They were a warrior species, large and powerful, with rough gray skin and tusks that curved from their lower jaws. Everyone feared them and everyone respected them. The like Lyra considered themselves the cultural elite. They were artists and scholars who looked down on physical species. They were somewhere in the middle, strong but not as strong as, smart but not as smart as. At the bottom were a small species with soft bodies and gentle voices. They were peaceful by nature and preferred to avoid conflict entirely. Humans were something new. Most species did not know where to place them. They came from a which suggested strength, but they were small compared to and. They had no natural weapons, no claws or tusks or venom. To most students, humans seemed like a contradiction that did not make sense. Noticed that one watched her more than others. His name was Vex, and he was the largest of his kind at the academy. He had dark gray skin marked with ritual scars and eyes like yellow fire. When walked past him in the halls, he stared at her with something between curiosity and contempt. On her 7th day, sat alone in the dining hall eating a simple meal of vegetables and protein substitute. A shadow fell across her table. She looked up to see Vex standing over her with two others behind him. "You are the human," Vex said. His voice was deep and rough. "Yes," said. "I have heard stories about your kind. They say you come from a world that kills everything." Continued eating. "It is just home to me." Vex leaned closer. His breath was hot and smelled like metal. "You do not seem dangerous. You seem small and weak." Looked at him calmly. Her father had taught her that fear was a choice. She could feel it if she wanted to, or she could set it aside like a tool she did not need. Right now, she did not need it. "Looks can be wrong," she said simply. Vex laughed. The sound was harsh and loud. "We will see, little, we will see." He walked away with his followers, finished her meal in silence. Across the dining hall, Lyra watched the exchange with wide eyes. When returned to their room that night, Lyra was waiting. "You spoke to Vex," Lyra said. "No one speaks to Vex like that." "I did not say anything special," said. "You did not bow, you did not look away, you did not show fear." Sat on her bed and pulled out her data pad to review her notes. "Should I have?" Lyra was quiet for a moment. Most species would have. They expect submission from those weaker than them. Looked up at her roommate. "I am not most species." Lyra studied her with those large violet eyes. For the first time, there was something other than discomfort in her expression. It might have been curiosity. It might have been the beginning of respect. "No," Lyra said softly. "I suppose you are not." Returned to her notes. Outside their window, the stars of the galaxy burned cold and distant. She was a long way from Nebraska, a long way from the farm, a long way from her father and his patient lessons about strength and silence. But she carried those lessons with her like seeds waiting to grow. She would need them soon enough. 2 weeks into the semester, found a friend in the most unexpected place. She was sitting in the academy garden, a dome of artificial plants and filtered sunlight designed to help students relax. Most avoided it during midday when the lights were. Found the warmth comforting. It reminded her of summer afternoons back home. A small figure approached her bench. He was barely half her height, with soft pink skin and large dark eyes that took up most of his face. His hands trembled as he held a data pad against his chest. "Excuse me," he said in a voice like wind through grass. "Is this seat taken?" Shook her head. The small alien sat down carefully, keeping distance between them. She recognized his species from her orientation materials. He was one of the gentle ones that everyone overlooked. "I am," he said. "You are the human." She said, "Nice to meet you." Blinked his huge eyes. "You are not afraid of me." "Should I be?" "No, I only ask because most species are afraid of you. I thought perhaps you might be afraid of everyone in return." Almost smiled. "I am not afraid of much." They sat together in comfortable silence. Worked on his data pad while read a book her father had sent her, an old Earth story about a farmer who never gave up despite impossible odds. After an hour, gathered his things to leave. "May I sit with you again tomorrow?" he asked. "Of course," said. From that day forward became her constant companion. They studied together, ate meals together, and walked to classes together. Other students noticed. Whispers followed them through the corridors. "The human keeps company with," someone said. "She must be weaker than we thought." "Perhaps she has no one else," another replied. "Even can be lonely." Ignored the talk. Was kind and smart and good company. He told her about his, a gentle place of shallow seas and soft winds where violence was almost unknown. His people had joined the Galactic Council to share their art and music, not to fight or compete. "We are not built for conflict," explained one evening. "Our bodies are fragile, our spirits are peaceful. We survive by avoiding trouble, not confronting it." "There is wisdom in that," said. "But it makes us targets," said quietly. His eyes dropped to the table, especially here. Understood what he meant. She had seen how they treated the students. They pushed them in hallways. They took their food in the dining hall. They called them names that the translator chip turned into words like prey and soft meat and worthless. Vex was the worst. He seemed to enjoy making students cry. It was sport to him, a way to prove his dominance over those who could not fight back. One afternoon, Vex found and eating lunch together. He walked to their table with his followers close behind. The dining hall went quiet. Everyone watched. "Thee and the prey animal," Vex said loudly. "What a pair you make." Continued eating her meal. She did not look up. Vex slammed his massive hand on the table. The sound echoed through the hall, flinched and dropped his food pack, kept chewing. "I am speaking to you, human," Vex growled. "I heard you," said calmly. "I am eating." Vex grabbed tray and threw it across the room. Food splattered against the far wall, made a small sound of distress but did not move. He was frozen with fear. "Your little friend made a mess," Vex said. "Perhaps he should clean it up." Set down her utensil. She looked at, "Come on, I will help you." Together they walked to where the food had fallen, knelt and began gathering the scattered pieces, joined her, his small hands shaking. Behind them, Vex laughed. "Look at he called to the watching crowd. "Cleaning floors like a servant. I thought humans were supposed to be dangerous." Said nothing. She finished helping clean the mess, then returned to her seat and continued her meal as if nothing had happened. Vex stared at her with confusion and anger mixed together. He had expected fear or rage or submission. He got none of these. "You are strange, human," he said finally, "but strangeness will not protect you forever." He left with his followers. The dining hall slowly returned to normal, sat across from with fresh food that a sympathetic kitchen worker had provided. "Why did you not fight him?" asked quietly. You could have hurt him." Finished her bite before answering. "Some battles are not worth fighting." "But he humiliated you." "Did he?" Looked at her friend with steady eyes. "I see no wounds on my body. I feel no pain in my heart. I am still here, eating my lunch with my friend. What did he actually take from me?" Thought about this for a long moment. "Nothing, I suppose." "Then there was no defeat," said, "only noise." That night, Lyra was waiting when returned to their room. Her violet eyes were troubled. "The whole academy is talking," Lyra said. "They say you are a coward. They say humans are weaker than anyone believed." Sat on her bed and removed her shoes. "Let them talk. Does it not bother you?" "No." Lyra moved closer. "I do not understand you, human. You come from a world of death and struggle. Your species fights wars and hunts predators and survives disasters that would destroy mine. Yet you kneel on the floor and clean up spilled food for a..." Looked up at her roommate. "My father taught me something when I was young. He said that anyone can throw a punch. Anyone can shout and threaten and make noise. True strength is knowing when to act and when to wait. True power is choosing your battles instead of letting others choose them for you." "And this battle?" Lyra asked. "Vex and his humiliation." "This is not my battle," said. "Not yet." Lyra sat down on her own bed. For a long time she said nothing. Then very quietly she asked a question that surprised them both. "Will you teach me what your father taught you?" Studied her roommate. Something had changed in Lyra's eyes. The discomfort was still there, but beneath it was something new. A seed of understanding, perhaps, a willingness to learn. "Yes," said, "if you truly want to know." Outside their window, the station lights dimmed for the artificial night cycle. Somewhere in the residential wings, Vex was probably celebrating his victory over the weak human and her pathetic friend. He had no idea what he had started. He had no idea what was coming. Closed her eyes and thought of home. She thought of her father standing in golden wheat, patient as stone, waiting for the harvest that always came in its own time. Some things could not be rushed. Some lessons had to be learned slowly. and some were more dangerous when they were quiet than when they were loud. Vex would learn this eventually. They all would. The weeks passed slowly, and Vex did not forget about Morgan. He tripped her in the corridors between classes. He knocked her data pad from her hands during study sessions. He poured liquid on her seat in the lecture hall so she would sit in the mess. Each time, cleaned herself up and continued with her day as if nothing had happened. The other students watched and whispered. Some thought she was broken inside, too damaged by her upbringing to respond normally. Others thought she was simply afraid, putting on a mask of calm to hide her terror. A few wondered if something else was happening, something they did not understand. Vex grew more frustrated with each failed attempt to break her. He spread rumors that humans carried deadly diseases. He told other students that had been sent to the academy as punishment because she was too weak to survive on Earth. He made sure she heard every cruel word. Heard them all, she let them wash over her like rain on stone. Rain could not hurt stone. Words could not hurt her. One morning, she found her personal belongings scattered across the corridor outside her room. Her clothes, her books, her photographs from home. Everything was thrown on the floor for everyone to see. Students walked past and laughed. A picture of her father lay face down in a puddle of spilled cleaning fluid. Gathered her things quietly. She picked up the photograph and wiped it clean with her sleeve. Her father smiled up at her from the image, standing in front of their farmhouse with the Nebraska sky stretching endless behind him. She could almost hear his voice. Patience, patience wins every war. Lyra helped her carry everything back inside. Her roommate no longer watched with distant curiosity. Now there was anger in her violet eyes. "This has gone too far," Lyra said. "You must report him to the administrators." Folded her clothes and returned them to her storage unit. Reporting will not help. They must do something. This is harassment. They have political power, said. Their species sits on the council. The administrators will speak to Vex. He will apologize publicly, and then he will continue doing what he does in private. Nothing will change except that he will be more careful about getting caught. Lyra sat down heavily on her bed. Then what can be done? We wait, said. We watch, we prepare. She did not explain what she meant by prepare. But that evening, after classes ended, she took to an empty training room and began teaching him how to fall. When someone pushes you, she explained, do not fight the fall. Go with it. Roll. Spread the impact across your whole body instead of one point. Was confused. You are teaching me how to lose. I am teaching you how to survive, said. Fighting comes later. First you must know how to take a hit without breaking. They practiced for an hour. Showed him how to protect his head, how to guard his soft midsection, how to curl into a ball that could absorb punishment without taking serious damage. Was not built for combat, but he could learn to be less fragile. Lyra began watching their sessions from the doorway. After a few days, she asked to join, welcomed her without question. Why do you know these things? Lyra asked one night as they practiced basic movements. Humans have weapons and technology. Why learn to fight with your bodies? Demonstrated a simple block. On Earth, we do not always have weapons. Sometimes you are caught alone in the wild with nothing but your hands. Sometimes you face an animal that wants to eat you and you have only seconds to react. Every human child learns basic survival skills. It is part of our education. Every child, Lyra seemed shocked, even the young ones. Especially the young ones. Our world does not wait for us to grow up before it tries to kill us. Practiced his falling technique nearby. He was getting better. The fear was still there, but beneath it was something new. Confidence, perhaps. The knowledge that he was not completely helpless. You could have hurt Vex from the beginning, Lyra said quietly. Could you not? Lowered her arms. She looked at her roommate with steady eyes. Yes. Then why did you not? Because hurting him would have solved nothing. He would have come back stronger, angrier, with more reason to cause harm. Violence creates cycles. My father taught me that winning a fight is easy. Winning a war is hard. And the only way to win a war is to make sure it never starts. But Vex started it, Lyra protested. He attacked you first. He attacked my pride, said. He attacked my reputation. He attacked my comfort. These are not things worth fighting for. When he attacks something that matters, something real, then I will respond. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. What matters to you, Morgan? Looked at, still practicing his falls with determination despite his small body and gentle nature. She thought of her father, her home, the people she loved. She thought of what it meant to be human, to come from a world that tried to kill you every day and to survive anyway. The people I care about, she said finally, their safety, their lives, touch those things and everything changes. The door to the training room slid open. Vex stood in the entrance with his followers behind him. His yellow eyes found, then moved to, then to Lyra. A slow smile spread across his tusked face. "What is this?" he asked mockingly. "The play's teacher now, teaching the prey animal and the pretty how to be warriors." Stepped in front of her friends. "We are just exercising. You are welcome to use the room when we finish." Vex walked closer. His followers spread out to block the exits. "I have a better idea. You have been pretending to be patient and wise and above conflict, but I know what you really are. You are a coward from a coward species, and I will prove it." He stood directly before now. She had to look up to meet his eyes. He was nearly twice her height and 3 times her weight. His body was built for war, covered in ritual scars that marked his victories. "I challenge you to formal combat," Vex announced loudly. "In the arena before the whole academy. Let everyone see what happens when a faces a true warrior." The room went silent, trembled behind. Lyra held her breath. Looked up at Vex without flinching. "No." The word hung in the air like a blade. "What?" Vex growled. "I decline your challenge. I have no interest in fighting for pride." Vex's face twisted with rage. In culture, declining a challenge was the greatest insult possible. It meant you considered your opponent unworthy of your attention. It meant you did not even see them as a threat. "You will regret this," Vex promised. His voice was low and dangerous. "I will make you regret this every day until you beg me for the chance to face me properly." He turned and stormed out of the room. His followers went with him. The door slid shut behind them. Let out a shaky breath. "What have you done?" Turned to face her friends. Her expression was calm, but something burned behind her eyes, something old and deep and patient. "I bought us time," she said. "Now the question is what he does with his anger. If he comes for me, that is fine. I can handle whatever he brings, but if he comes for you—" She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. They all understood what she meant. The game had changed. The stakes had risen. And somewhere in the academy, a warrior was planning his revenge. 3 days after declined his challenge, Vex made his move. He did not come for her. She had expected that. Vex was cruel, but he was not stupid. He understood that attacking directly would only prove that her refusal had hurt him. His pride demanded a different kind of revenge. He went for it instead. It happened in the lower corridors near the maintenance section, an area where few students traveled and no security monitors watched. Was in class when her communication device buzzed with an emergency message from Lyra. "Vex has, lower maintenance corridor 7, come now." Stood up in the middle of the lecture. The professor, a four-armed, stopped speaking and stared at her. "Miss Morgan, we are in the middle of a lesson." "I have to go," said. Her voice was flat and strange. Several students who heard it later would say it sounded like ice cracking on a frozen lake. She ran through the corridors faster than she had ever run at the academy. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her mind was perfectly clear. Fear tried to rise inside her, but she pushed it down. Fear was a tool. Right now she needed different tools. She found them at the end of corridor 7. Vex stood with his back to her, his massive frame blocking the narrow passage. Two of his followers flanked him on either side. Between them, pressed against the wall, was the small was crying. Purple bruises already marked his soft pink skin. One of his arms hung at a wrong angle, clearly broken. His large, dark eyes found as she approached, and she saw hope and terror mixed together in their depths. Vex said. The turned slowly. He was smiling, a terrible expression on his tusked face. Ah, the coward arrives. I wondered if you would come. Let him go. Vex laughed. The sound echoed off the metal walls. Let him go, but we are just having a conversation. I am teaching your little friend what happens to those who associate with humans who insult honor. I am asking you one time, said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the corridor like a blade. Let him go. Walk away. This is your only warning. The two followers exchanged uncertain glances. Something in the human's tone made them uncomfortable, but Vex only laughed harder. Warning, you warned me. He stepped toward her, his huge body filling the corridor. You are half my size, little. You have no claws, no tusks, no armor. What exactly are you threatening me with? Did not answer. She watched him with eyes that had gone completely still. Vex turned back to, since you care so much about this creature, let me show you what do to the weak. He raised his massive fist and brought it down on already broken arm. The sound of bone cracking further filled the corridor. Screamed, a high, thin sound that cut through like a knife. Something changed. Later, witnesses would struggle to describe what they saw. One of Vex's followers would say that the human girl seemed to blur, like she was there one moment and somewhere else the next. The other would say her eyes went empty, like windows into a room where something terrible waited. Moved. She covered the distance between them in less than a second. Her first strike hit the nerve cluster on Vex's right arm, deadening it instantly. Her second strike caught him behind the knee, buckling his leg. Before he could react, before he could even understand what was happening, she was behind him with her arm locked around his throat. The two followers lunged forward to help their leader, adjusted her grip on Vex and twisted. The gasped as pressure cut off blood flow to his brain. The followers froze. Move and I break his neck, said. Her voice was perfectly calm. I know exactly how much pressure it takes. Your species has strong bones but weak joints. One quick twist and he dies. Do you understand? They understood. They stood perfectly still. Vex struggled against her grip, but his right arm was useless, and his position gave him no leverage. He was stronger than her, much stronger, but strength meant nothing when you could not use it. He was like a lion caught in a trap, all power and fury and no way to apply either. How, he choked out, how are you doing this? Leaned close to his ear. When she spoke, her voice was soft and terrifying. I am going to tell you something, Vex. Something your species does not understand about mine. We do not fight for pride. We do not fight for dominance. We do not enjoy causing pain. But when someone hurts the people we love, we become something else. Something old. Something your ancestors learned to fear when they were still climbing out of the mud. She tightened her grip slightly. Vex made a choking sound. On my world, we call it protective instinct. Parents who lift vehicles to save their children. Farmers who fight off predators with their bare hands. Soldiers who throw themselves on explosives to save their friends. When you trigger that instinct, all the rules go away. There is no mercy. There is no restraint. There is only the threat and the need to end it. Had slid down the wall to the floor, cradling his broken arm. He stared at with huge eyes, seeing her clearly for the first time. You hurt my friend, continued. You broke his arm, you made him scream. Do you know what that sound did to me, Vex? Do you know what it woke up? She released him suddenly. Vex collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. His followers rushed to help him, but they kept their distance from the small human girl who had just brought down the strongest warrior in the academy. Knelt beside. Her movements were gentle now, completely different from the controlled violence of moments before. She checked his arm carefully, her touch light and soothing. "It will be okay," she said softly. "Medical can fix this. You will be fine." Whispered, "I have never seen anything like that." "I know." She helped him stand, supporting his weight with her body. "I did not want you to. I never wanted anyone to see that part of me." She turned to look at Vex one more time. There was back on his feet, rubbing his throat. His yellow eyes burned with humiliation and something that might have been fear. "This is finished," said. "You leave alone, you leave Lyra alone, you leave me alone. If you come near any of us again, I will not stop at a warning. I will end you. Not because I want to, because I will have no choice. Do you understand?" Vex said nothing. His jaw was clenched so tight that his tusks seemed to vibrate with tension. "Do you understand?" repeated. For a long moment, silence filled the corridor. Then slowly, Vex nodded. It was the smallest possible movement, barely visible, but it was enough. Turned and walked away, supporting with one arm. Behind her, the three stood in stunned silence, trying to understand what had just happened. The girl had finally shown what she really was, and now everyone would know. News of what happened in Corridor 7 spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. By evening, everyone knew. The small human girl had defeated Vex, the strongest warrior in the school. She had done it in seconds, without weapons, without visible effort. She had held his life in her hands and chosen to let him live. Students began researching Earth. They watched videos of human hunters tracking animals across vast distances. They read about soldiers who kept fighting with terrible wounds that should have killed them. They learned about the gravity, the predators, the diseases, the storms, the earthquakes, the volcanoes. They discovered that humans had evolved as persistent hunters, creatures that would chase their prey for hours and days until it collapsed from exhaustion. The picture they assembled was terrifying. Humans were not strong-like or fast-like or smart-like. They were something worse. They were relentless. They did not give up. They did not stop. They endured and adapted and kept coming no matter what stood in their way. And they protected their own, with a ferocity that reason. Spent 2 days in the medical center while his arm healed in a regeneration cast. Visited him every morning and every evening. She brought him food from the dining hall and books from the library and stories from her childhood on Earth. "Tell me about your father," said one afternoon. Smiled softly. It was the first genuine smile had ever seen on her face. He was a farmer, a simple man who grew wheat and corn and raised animals for food. He never raised his voice. He never hurried. He taught me that patience was the greatest weapon a person could have. He sounds wise. He looked out the window at the stars. He told me once that anger is like a fire. It burns hot and bright, but it burns out quickly. Patience is like water. It flows around obstacles. It wears down stone. Given enough time, it can reshape the entire world. Considered this. But you were not patient in the corridor. You were fast and fierce. Yes, admitted. Because patience has limits. There are lines that cannot be crossed. When someone hurts an innocent person, someone who cannot defend themselves, the time for patience ends. Then the fire comes out. "I do not think I understood humans before," said quietly. "I thought you were just another strong species trying to prove yourselves. But you are not, are you? You are something different." Turned back to her friend. "We are survivors. Our world tried to kill us for millions of years. It threw everything it had at us. And we are still here. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest because we refused to give up. And because we learned to work together to protect each other, to fight for something beyond ourselves." When returned to classes, everything had changed. Other students nodded to him in the halls. They made room for him at tables in the dining hall. The word had gone out. There was under human protection. Touching him meant answering to the. Vex avoided entirely. His followers had abandoned him after his defeat. In culture, strength determined worth. He had been proven weak by a creature half his size, and his status had crumbled overnight. He ate alone now, sitting in corners with his head down, the fire gone from his yellow eyes. One evening he approached in the garden. She was sitting on her usual bench, reading a book while worked on his studies nearby. Lyra sat with them, her silver hair catching the artificial starlight. "Human," Vex said. Looked up, her expression was neutral, neither hostile nor welcoming. "I need to understand," Vex said. His voice was rough with something that might have been shame. "How did you defeat me? I am twice your size. I have trained in combat since I could walk. You should not have been able to touch me." Closed her book. "You want an honest answer." "Yes." "You expected me to fight like you, strong against strong, force against force. But that is not how humans fight. We do not try to overpower our enemies. We find their weaknesses and we exploit them. Your size was a disadvantage in that narrow corridor. Your confidence made you slow. Your belief that I was helpless made you careless." Vex absorbed this in silence. "You are stronger than me," continued. "In a fair fight you would probably win. But we do not fight fair. We cannot afford to. On our world, the animal that fights fair is the animal that dies. We learn to be clever instead of strong, patient instead of aggressive, precise instead of powerful." "I thought humans were cowards," Vex said slowly. "All those times you refused to fight me, I thought you were afraid." "I was never afraid of you," said. "I just did not want to fight. There is a difference. Fear is when you want to fight but cannot. What I felt was control. I could have fought you any time. I chose not to." "Why?" Looked then at Lyra, then back at Vex. "Because fighting should be the last choice, not the first. Because every battle you do not fight is a victory for patience. Because I wanted to give you chances to be better." "And now?" "Now," considered the question, "now you know what I am capable of. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. You can hold on to your anger and wait for revenge, or you can learn from this and become something different, better." Vex stood in silence for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He bowed his head, the traditional gesture of respect for a worthy opponent. "I understand now," he said quietly, "why my ancestors feared your kind." He walked away without another word, watched him go, then returned to her book. The semester continued. Other species began approaching humans with new attitudes. Not fear, exactly, but a careful respect. They understood now that the small creatures from there were not to be underestimated. The quiet ones were often the most dangerous. On the last day before break, Lyra sat with in their shared room. Outside, shuttles were arriving to take students back to there. "I have been thinking," Lyra said, "about what makes humans so unsettling to other species." Folded her clothes neatly into her travel bag. "And what did you conclude?" "It is not your strength. Many species are stronger. It is not your technology. Many are more advanced." Lyra paused, choosing her words carefully. "It is your restraint, knowing what you can do and choosing not to do it, carrying that potential for violence inside you every moment of every day and keeping it controlled. That frightens you." "It fascinates me," Lyra admitted. "And yes, a little frightening too, to look at you and see a gentle person, a kind friend, a patient teacher, and to know that underneath all of that is something that could destroy anything that threatens what you love." Smiled. "We are not monsters, Lyra. We just come from a monster world. It taught us how to be terrible when we need to be, but it also taught us how precious peace is, how valuable kindness is, how important it is to protect those who cannot protect themselves." In the garden below, a commotion caught their attention. A new transfer student had arrived, a young alien with nervous eyes and trembling hands. A group of had surrounded him, mocking his small size and awkward movements. Watched for a moment, then she stood and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Lyra asked. Looked back at her roommate with steady eyes. "To introduce myself." She walked out of the room, down the corridor, and into the garden. They saw her coming and scattered like leaves in wind. The new student looked up at her with confusion and hope. "Hi," said, extending her hand. "I am Morgan. Welcome to Harmony Prime." The young alien took her hand. His grip was weak and uncertain, but his eyes held a spark of something that might grow into courage. "Thank you," he whispered. Smiled. Somewhere far away, on a blue world of wheat fields and endless sky, her father stood in golden light and looked up at the stars. She did not know if he could feel her presence across all those miles of space, but she liked to think he knew. She liked to think he was proud. This was what it meant to be human, not the violence, not the fear, the choice to be kind when you could be cruel, the choice to protect when you could destroy, the choice to offer a hand to someone who needed help. The had made them dangerous, but it had also made them something better. It had made them human.